Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Today is webinar 37 in our AIEC Webinar Week series. This morning, we'll be talking about the IREAP program, which is the Illinois Rural Electric Apprentice Program. Just a few housekeeping items. Please stay muted. If you have any questions, please send them through the chat to AIEC. That's a direct message to myself and Brian. What am I forgetting already? Please keep your microphone muted unless asked otherwise. The presentation will last 45 minutes with time at the end for Q&A. We have, okay, Brian,
I'll
take it now.
go ahead and introduce our presenters today. Today we have Thad France and Amber Crawford. They're both with the AIEC. Thad is the Manager of Line Worker and Apprentice Development, and Amber is the Training and Safety Coordinator, and they're the two that head up the IREAP program. So with that, I'll hand it over to you guys.
Perfect. Well, good morning. As an old lineman, if you'd have told me 20 years ago I'd be sitting in front of a screen talking to everybody, I'd have probably said you was crazy. So I am actually a little bit nervous, so kind of bear with us here. We're kind of gonna just give an overview of the program, why we think it's important to use the program, and how it benefits you. We still get a lot of questions, and so we figured to use this format to kind of help answer some of those. And again, at the end, if you do have any questions, we'll be happy to answer you. So with that, just to give you an idea of what the IREAP program is, it's an hours-based, time-based. So it's 2,000 hours a year on the job training. With that, the 2,000 hours, and we'll kind of touch on it here in a little bit, that is right at basically close to your 40-hour work week with overtime, and there are some hours that we can pull from that I'll touch base here in a little bit with the book work. So it's 2,000 hours per year of on-the-job training, 144 hours of classroom work through the AIEC with their different classes that we offer out at League and Land, what have you, and 179 hours minimum with the Northwest Lineman College. Something new we've kind of started here just recently with a couple co-ops, and we've okayed this with the Department of Labor. We're accepting ALBAT workbooks also. I've actually went through ALBAT as an apprentice, and I've done the Northwest Lineman College books just so I kind of had an idea of what they entailed. And they're very similar. The format's just a little different, but the content's pretty much the same. So we can work with those. So if you have a co-op or a muni that's currently using ALBAT books and want to stay with those, we can. We just have to change a couple forms, which Amber already has, and she'll talk about some forms later. So with that, with the Northwest Lineman College books, we don't handle purchasing the books or giving the test. That's all done through Northwest Lineman College. We give you all the contact information. We have dealt with Heather in the past. She's usually right on it. I will tell you here recently, they've had some issues because they've changed over some different software and stuff. So if you do have an issue when contacting her, with her getting back to you, contact us. I believe, Amber, we had that issue here just last week, and it was a quick fix. Yeah. There's basically 4 modules, and within those modules, there's a certain number of books. Those modules are per year. We've had apprentices that will do the whole module in the first month and a half, 2 months of getting the module. That's fine. They don't have to necessarily stick on a schedule. The only thing they will need to do is do the books in order, because each book plays on the book prior to. And as they finish these books, they're going to be allocated hours. Northwest Lineman College has put together a formula, I guess you could call it, of basically how long it would take to complete the workbook, how long it would take to study for the test and to take the test, and within each book, and we'll go over these different forms later, but on these forms, it gives you how many hours it would take to accomplish that. So just for instance, in the first year, you're going to get 179 hours just for completing the module. And depending on the co-op, most co-ops, this work is to be done on the apprentice's own time. So we are able to pull from those hours and add to the annual hours, because there's going to be extras at the end if need be. So say you get to the end of that year and your apprentice is due for a step advancement, but he's 100 hours shy, we can pull from the book work hours. So, and again, we have all this in a book form that if you want us to at the end, I believe Amber has sent it out, we can send it out. It just states everything we're talking about. We just put it kind of in a book form. On the test, whenever they complete a test, that is when they will put those hours on their timesheet. The OJT tracking sheet, which Amber will go over here in a little bit, it's not a 24-hour time stamped where you can only put 24 hours in that day. You can put as many as you want. So when they pass that test, they can put, for instance, the first book, Introduction to Power Delivery, it's 22 hours to study, complete the book work, and to take the test. They can put 22 hours on that day that they completed that test. Again, on the recommended hours, one thing I do like for the co-ops to do, or whoever's in the program, when I took over, I kind of noticed we had some apprentices that might have been in their third or fourth year of their apprenticeship. They were going back trying to pick up first year distribution. That really does nobody any good. It's hard as a group of instructors when you have a student that's a third or fourth year apprentice and you're out trying to show him how to put a tie wire on. He already knows that. So we've worked with different individuals on that. If you were to jump in and you've had this issue, we can kind of work with that, maybe give some credit depending on what you think. But we like to keep these in order. And if you notice, we've kind of broke it down to exactly what they'll need to do in that year. This makes it really simple. We have made some changes. There's no longer a advanced underground class, because in the advanced underground class, they were basically doing trenching and shoring competent person. We actually run that concurrent with our underground class. We actually have Matt Eisendinger come out on Wednesday, and he will go over that with them. We actually do some hands-on stuff out in the field. The supervisory, the SST, well, what used to be the SST, which is going to be rebranded here coming up, those are recommended, not necessarily required, but there are some good things in there where it would be a good idea to send those to them. And I want to touch on the first year, second year, third year, and fourth year apprenticeship class. In the past, let's just say I've changed it. What I noticed was a lot of our apprentices didn't really quite understand just electrical theory. A lot of them didn't really understand how to navigate OSHA. So I don't necessarily teach an OSHA 10 class, but I basically have them go through the OSHA book. I give them a subject. They will actually go through and put on basically a safety class in the classroom. And then we also get with Matt Eisendinger or Leroy or Jim, and they will go back to their co-op and put on a safety meeting, if you will. It just teaches them how to go in, look at OSHA, see what the OSHA rules are as far as safety. Some other stuff we do, we touch on safety. Grounding is a big thing that I cover. Transformers, basically, depending on what year they're in, that's what I go over. I also do give them some time. If they have questions about their book work, I will give them some time to work on that, but it's not just a half full half of coming over and working on workbooks. And those classes are technically, when you register for, there is no price on those. That is included in the $500 that we charge. Plus, I also give them books. I give them a hardback book and some other books. It's usually roughly about $160 a piece. So when you do register them and it's $500, this class is actually included in that. So moving on, I'll kind of turn it over here to Amber, and she'll kind of talk about why it's important with, to have a Department of Labor number and what we do. Just real quick before she gets into the nuts and bolts of that, it is important to have a Department of Labor number just so your apprentice, when he tops out, is recognized by the federal government as a journeyman line worker. So with that, I'll turn it over to Amber.
Good morning. So I just want to kind of get through the main process of what you're going to do when you have a new apprentice, or if you want to register your apprentice with our program. So first thing you're going to do is go out to our website, which is aiec.coop/IREAP, and it brings you here. This is our main registration page. So when you get here, you would click on Register Apprentice. Let's see, it's going to come up. And this is where you pick what level the apprentice will be starting at. So anytime an apprentice is new or advancing to another level, you would have to fill out this form. That helps us to know what level they're going to be at and if they are advancing, and so that it will also trigger our invoicing, our accounting, and let us know we need to register a new apprentice. So here's the first, second, third, and fourth year apprenticeship levels. So again, they're all $500, and you just click on one. If they're first year, you're going to get additional questions just because there's additional information if they're new that I have to fill out with Department of Labor. And it's mainly just the demographics type stuff. So if you have a current apprentice that is maybe already a second year that you're going to register with us, that is going to be maybe a third year apprentice or something like that, you need to let us know how many hours you're going to credit to them. So when we register with them with Department of Labor, we know what to put in there so that they are already starting out as a second or third or fourth year apprentice. So this is the form. You just fill this out and hit submit, and then that also goes to Thad and I, and also goes to our accounting department. So you would automatically, once accounting gets it, they will create an invoice and invoice you for that amount. Okay, then the next thing you would need to do is fill out an Appendix E, which once we get an apprentice, once you fill this form out, we would sign them up with Department of Labor, and then we would also create a Microsoft Teams account. And in that account, I would put this form. So I'm just going to go over the form real quick, and then I'll jump into Teams here in a little bit. So this is the Appendix E form. Again, this is with Department of Labor. So this is the employer acceptance agreement. We only need one of these forms. So if you had multiple apprentices, you only need to fill this form out once. So you just type in your co-op name, the starting wage, the journey worker wage, if there's any related training instruction, sign it, date it, and fill out the rest of the contact information. Pretty easy, and then leave that on Teams. So again, I'll cover that here shortly. Let's see. That is not the right form. This is in my way. Give me a second here. I've lost my forms. Oh, here it is. Okay, the other one is Appendix B. So on Appendix B, this one typically I would generate. So if you have a new apprentice, starting out first year apprentice, there's no need to worry about filling out this form. I will automatically, it'll generate this in Department of Labor. But if you have one that's starting out as a second or third year, this form would be need to be filled out just so that we can get those correct hours put into Department of Labor. So down here it's going to ask you for credit for previous experience and that type of information. So again, that's something we would need filled out. And then I can regenerate this in Department of Labor and give you a better copy. And when I generate this, all that is a confirmation letting you know that they have been registered with Department of Labor under our number, and also gives that apprentice that confirmation as well. So, all right, let me go ahead and I will jump into Teams. So like I said, whenever you create an apprentice or register with us, what we do is automatically create a Teams account. So ours is going to look much different because we have every single apprentice out here. You would probably only have your one team. And the longer that Microsoft Teams has been around, the more they've changed and upgraded. So we've learned to do things a little bit differently than what we did in the beginning. So now we create a team, and then underneath the team, each apprentice is a channel. What's great about this is that the apprentices will only be able to see their own information. They won't be able to see, you know, if you have multiple apprentices, they won't be able to see another apprentice's information. So it is all secure. So for example, I think MJM is on here. So this was before Teams was upgraded. So we have MJM Killam and MJM Waters. You can see here, we've started with RECC. They've got a new apprentice over here. So this Mark, he's only going to be able to see his information. And as they get new apprentices, we'll just keep adding channels. So let me go back up here we'll look at MJM Waters. And you can see up here, there's different, like a little menu up here at the top. So it's general, posts, files, IREAP, reminders. Again, we create all of this. And then we would also come over, set up a meeting with you and your apprentices to get them registered on Teams and make sure that they have access and kind of give them a little demo of what all they need to do. So underneath files, we have created a Department of Labor form, invoices, a folder with their name on it, and templates. So if you look underneath Department of Labor, that's where you would find that Appendix E form. And again, you could just fill that out. Another one, if I go back here to general, you can look at the actual apprentice name folder. And in here, you're going to find, we try to break it up in between first year and second year and third year and fourth year on what they need to do. But then there's also the OJT forms. So if I can, I always usually put one up here. So I'm going to look at the 2020 OJT. And all this is a Microsoft Excel document. We try to make it really secure for the apprentices and anyone else. So this is a full year of their on-the-job training hours. So it makes it really easy and slick for anybody, including the apprentices, to get in there, do their hours, type in their hours. So the first tab is a summary. So it's going to give a whole year kind of overview of how many hours. It's like a quick glance. You can't change anything on this page other than the yellow fields, but it'll give a quick glance. And this is the one that Thad and I usually look at when we're doing our quarterly audits, just making sure that the apprentices are keeping track of their hours and updating things. So again, this is January, and you would be able to see all of the topics that they have. Let me go ahead and click over to January here.
Because they use the sheet pencils on.
Oh, yeah, and I apologize. I do believe MJM prints these off, so that's why this is not actually filled out. But right here on January, you can just type in the hours. Is it gonna go? Maybe my keyboard's not connected, but anyhow, you just type in the hours here and it would automatically do the calculations for you. So these are all of the recommended topics that we would like the apprentices to do. And when you get into the book work and want to calculate those hours would need to go into this miscellaneous column. Okay, and then you can also give a description over here as to what it was you did. So if it was module 1 or module 2, something along those lines. And on this daily total, this will automatically give you a daily calculation. As I scroll down, you will also see the total at the bottom here. So it'll give you a total calculation for each one of these topics. The bottom part of this form is where the supervisors or foremen, superintendents would need to sign off on their hours. And this is a really important part right here, and it's really easy to do. All the superintendent has to say is the apprentice progressing as expected? It's a drop-down field, a simple yes or no. So as long as you click yes, there is nothing that you need to say down here in the comments. However, if you choose no, we do recommend that you put something down there in those comments.
This is very important just because when we used to do the paper form to this, I've noticed it was almost like people were going through and stamping them. And the one issue I do know that Bruce Hallam at the Department of Labor said, if you do put no, or you hold an apprentice back for any reason, make sure you put comments in there, because if it's not documented, that apprentice can actually come back and say, well, show me where you said I wasn't. When it comes time for him to advance and you don't advance him or her, and they have a right to say, well, why not? You just put yes in all my boxes and said I was progressing as expected. Or if you actually put no and you put some notes, you put a little meat on the bone, if you will, that says, you know, this is why we're holding you back. And he has no recourse at that point.
Another part down here is just to type in your name and date it. So the apprentice would sign their name, date it, and again, whoever else you needed to sign and date it.
And yes, you can't just type your name in. You don't necessarily need to print it or to write it. It's an implied signature. So.
Okay. And again, this is protected, so they can't mess this up. They can't change these totals down here. Again, I'm not sure why it's not typing here, but it should allow you to automatically type in those hours and, you know, just a 5 here, and it would automatically calculate over on the right-hand side.
One thing I will touch on this, these are recommended hours for these different categories, if you will. I do know, and so does the Department of Labor, that sometimes it's hard for some co-ops now to get transmission hours. I do know that PPI is actually doing some work sharing with their apprentices and getting them some distribution hours, and vice versa with the transmission. But I will tell you, on the transmission side, if you are working on the underbuild on the transmission pole, put that towards the transmission, unless you know you're hanging a transformer, what have you. These are recommended hours. I worked transmission for 10 years straight, and it's just bigger wire, bigger grips. So we understand that, and so does the Department of Labor. So don't get hung up on the transmission side of it and some of the generation. Just know that we can work around that as far as, because it is recommended. Now, I don't want to see somebody doing 4 years of forestry work and then we're going to say he's alignment. That doesn't make much sense. But you know, just kind of spread them out as much as and as well as you can.
All right. So again, just to cover this one more time, anything that you would enter in, here's your OJT hour. So you just go to the specific month. On the left side is the day. So then they would just correspond with what topic and just enter in their time. It automatically does the calculations, and then it brings it all over here to the summary tab. So you can see, you know, a quick glance where you're at with the hours. Again, it's going to show you, you know, here's how many recommended hours are for each topic. And then right down here is red. Once this has been met, it will turn blue. And again, it is recommended hours, so it's not required.
So as they're doing this on Teams, you'll see, if you want to go to the templates on some of the forms. For those of you who's used the program in the past, we used to have, Amber and myself, when we first took over, we would get a stack of faxes. There's even a fax left around anymore. So what we did, we digitized all of the step advancement forms and the OSHA review forms. So just pull up step advancement is fine. So on these step advancement forms, pops up here, they're real simple. So you can just kind of go through and fill out the information, scroll down through there, give what level it'll be, you'll check, will it be advanced to the next consecutive level or will not be. If he will be advanced, you don't have to put comments. If he's not going to be advanced, and Amber sets up reminders now whenever we do get an apprentice in, you will have reminders every day on the start date for the next 4 years of when this is due. So not knowing, that's kind of out the window anymore. You will know because you will get a reminder for this.
Yep.
So again, you just type in your name, date, whoever did the evaluation. And then you will also fill out an OSHA competency form.
Give me a second, I'm pulling that up.
On these, this is where your bookwork will come into play. Plus, I also broke this down. If you look at the top, you will see that is the first year books, the first year module. You will put your test scores on those lines. And of course, the past modules and average. So on the first year course, you won't have anything, but then moving forward, you'll put those. And the AIEC workshops attended, that's any off, not necessarily a safety meeting per se, but anything that AIEC puts on, whether it's a class out at Lincoln Land or a regional training or what have you, the SST. And then if you scroll down through here, I actually went through and created these. This is things that apprentice should have been doing in the corresponding year. So, and some of them are pretty generic as far as, you know, properly co-op safety rules. But then if you get down and look at some of these other, in his first year, by the end of his first year, he should be able to properly identify different types of switches, whether it's a cutout, three-phase switch, air brake, you know, reclosure, what have you. And just on down the line. These are things that, so if you get 6 months in and you see, okay, what hasn't he done that he should be able to, or him or her, sorry. This kind of gives you a guide of what to look for, what he should have done in that first year. And each year is different. And this will be filled out for every step advancement form that you fill out. So once a year, you'll register him at the AIEC. You'll fill out a step advancement form, and you will fill out this OSHA job competency demonstration form. And again, this is for all 4 years. They're all pretty much the same. Now, where you see the bookwork and the test scores, this is something Amber actually has a form now for the ALBAT books. It just looks a little bit different. You'll just put those tests there. It won't necessarily, it won't have the names of the Northwest Lineman College books. So those are pretty much the only 2 forms we have now. I know when before we've cut down quite a bit on the paperwork anyway. One thing I do want to stress about the program is we've actually noticed, well, just for instance, Ameren here lately has basically shut down anybody from using any outside entities using their training. So we have picked up quite a few here lately. You can start an apprentice basically at any level you would like, as long as there's documentation. So say your apprentice or just somebody that you hired has been to a climbing school, as long as it's an accredited climbing school, I'm not going to make him or her go back through my school. I have looked at 20 different schools and we're all pretty much standard across the board of what we teach and how we teach it. So say you had somebody that went to Georgia, if you hire them, I'm not going to make them go through climbing school. I made in first year, distribution, second year, as long as you can document it. So if they have transcripts, we just had one here last week that fell under this category. He had all his transcripts from going through Ameren's training. He actually come on board as a 4th year apprentice. They give him credit for the hours and he will top out, you know, accordingly. So he'll top out next year. the Department of Labor will work with us. This is basically your program. So if you come to us and say, I want to hire this kid, he's been an apprentice at Ameren for the last 3 years, he's just wanting to make a change, he's coming over, as long as you can pull his transcripts and show that he, he went through an accredited school, we can plug those numbers in and basically make it that way. Another good thing is if you were to hire a student that went through our Lincoln Land course out here, I don't make them go back through this. So it's saving you money to hire somebody that's went through a climbing school. The only time I do make my students retake a course is usually in the 3rd year. We go ahead and have them redo the rubber gloving school just because it's been a period of time. And honestly, our rubber gloving school, I would put right there with any of them. So, so it is important to know that you can save some money within the program just by hiring either previous experience or somebody that's been through basically a line worker school, and not necessarily ours. I'm not saying ours is the best. Ours is, I'm not putting down any other schools. But with that, I also want the co-ops to be able to save some money, and that's one good way to save some money.
Yeah, and I work with Bruce Hallam at the Department of Labor. He's been really good to us and helped explain a lot of things. And if you ever have any issues, just reach out to me. There is one thing, so on the, if your journeyman wage or anything like that ever changes, any of your wages, you just need to let me know so I can let Bruce know. Real good about that also.
And one last thing I'd like to add before we open it up to questions is with this program, with all the information being in one spot, I like to put a lot of the ownership on the actual apprentice themselves. When I come over, when we do sign up your apprentice, we come over and I talk with them. And I stress to them that it's to their benefit to stay up to date. There shouldn't be an ops guy or personnel or whoever you have handle this on your side. There's no reason that you should have to spend as much time as you have been in the past. That apprentice should come to you and say, hey, I need this class this week, or my tests are due, what have you, because they can see it all. And Amber sets up reminders. So not only do you get a reminder, but the apprentice gets the reminder. I know when I went through my apprenticeship program, it was on me to complete the work, do the hours. The only difference was I had to show up on a Saturday on my own time. A lot of this stuff can be done on the apprentice's own time. Now, if you want to give them time to do the work or what have you, that's totally up to you. But I like to put a lot of the ownership on the apprentice themselves, because the way I look at it, and I may be wrong, but if the apprentice doesn't show enough drive and ambition to complete this program, then really do we want that kind of individual working for us? But that's very rare. We see it a couple times, and they usually don't work out. But that's one good thing about utilizing teams and this program. It's all the information is in one spot, and not only can you see it, but the apprentice can see it, and that's one thing.
One more thing I do want to share, because I don't think I covered this very well. Let me share my screen again. On the IREAP website, this is kind of a one-stop shop. If you want to see what classes are coming up, just come out here. It's aiec.coop/IREAP. It shows you all of the upcoming classes, so you can have a good idea of what's coming and when your apprentices are available. We do have like the climbing school first year, second, and advanced and rubber gloving and underground. Those are held twice a year in the spring and fall. So you will have a chance, if you missed it maybe in the spring, to catch it in the fall. And you can see the dates already out here. These are planned well in advance because we do host this out with Lincoln Land. So usually they are held, or at least we can let you know that when the dates will be coming. Another thing on the teens website that I did not mention, this is actually very helpful is on this post. You can come out here and start a new conversation with me or Thad. And it will automatically pop up, you know, as if you just type the @ symbol, and I say the @Thad, you know, hey, can you check my hours? And that will automatically send a text alert to Thad and let him know that, hey, someone's, you know, reaching out. And it would pop up as Matthew Waters here, letting him know that he's got a message from Matthew Waters. So this is another great way, because the apprentices sometimes have a hard time if they do have a question, you know, they want to reach directly out to us. This is a great way for them to be able to do that. And it would alert Thad or me. And again, all it is a simple @ symbol, and to let Thad know that he's got a question about it.
So I think with that, we can open it up for any questions or comments or what have you.
There are no questions in the chat. If you guys would like to, I think at this point we can go ahead and just open the floor. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to unmute, and you can direct those directly to Amber or Thad.
I'll answer the first question. This is not a mohawk. This is just the bad lighting in this room, so.
Not all at once.
We had got that question in the chat function, but I didn't want to bring it up, so thanks, Thad.
And if you guys do have any questions at a later date, you're more than welcome to contact Amber or myself. We're always happy to help and give any info that we can.
And with the Teams meeting where Thad and I would come out to you, we do help the apprentices get set up on Teams. And sometimes that works out really well. A lot of co-ops and municipals will have a computer designated out in their warehouse or whatever that the apprentices can sit down and enter their hours in. So that works really well. If you do have an Office 365 account, or if the apprentice maybe has their own Office 365 account, that would even be better. And they can even use it on their phone or tablet.
Well, we still haven't had any questions come through, but if anybody does have any questions come up, you know, again, feel free to reach out directly to Thad or Amber. You can also reach out to myself, Brian, or Dan, and we can get you in contact with them if you don't have their information. We do have another webinar coming up at 10:30. It's Supply Chain Attacks. SolarWinds was just the beginning. Registration is closed for that. However, if you do wish to sit in on it, please shoot me an email and I'll get you the information. And if there are no other questions, we can go ahead and end this one.
Real quick, I'm gonna inject a question here. I know, Amber, we have several of our members that are either in the process of transitioning or looking at migrating to implement Teams into their environment. They don't currently have it. Does that pose any challenges with utilizing AIEC's Teams?
Yeah, what we found is if they do have Office 365, sometimes we have to generate a new email address or use the web-based Microsoft Teams instead. And that seems to work the best.
So we do have a workaround for it. It's just to
Absolutely.
reach out to us, and there's a couple more steps there that we need to take to make sure that that works.
Yeah, lately, I'm glad Dan brought that up. Lately, we're seeing more and more co-ops utilize Teams and other co-ops inviting other co-ops. And so that kind of created I'm not a tech guy, but like a backdoor issue to where we've kind of figured out, hopefully, how to work around that. I know we had an issue over at Illinois Electric. We kind of figured out how to get around that, so.
And I will throw this out there. Microsoft is aware of this issue. There's been several threads that I've been following for 6 or 8 months now, where customers of Office 365 Teams have made Microsoft aware this is a problem. And Microsoft is addressing it. And basically what it is a multiple tenant issue where as an end user, I need access to multiple teams, tenants, so multiple organizations. And Microsoft's heard that call. I don't know that there's a full ETA on a really good resolution, but we do have a workaround in the meantime. But it is kind of comforting to know that Microsoft has acknowledged it as an issue and they are working to address it. So hopefully in the near future, it will be a little bit more seamless than what our current workarounds are.
One more thing I wanted to mention, because I don't think I mentioned this very well or made it very clear. So why we use Microsoft Teams is that it is very clear. It's very transparent and easy for everyone to use. So anyone that we invite to that specific apprentice team would have access to drop in files. So the apprentice can see their own files. The superintendents, foremen, whatever, could see their that apprentice's files, and then Thad and I can also see those files. So that allows us, whenever they attend one of our classes, we automatically create a certificate and kind of a report of what they did at that school with their grades. And I automatically would put that into their team's file so that you can see it, they can see it, and it's all automatically there. I would also email it to the person who registered them, usually is who that goes to. But it's a real slick option for everybody to have access to. And I know when we visited another co-op, I think they mentioned that they were having some issues getting files from Ameren. So the way we're doing things, I think, is a big improvement to the way it's been done in the past, and makes it to where everybody can see everything and know where everybody's at.
Okay.
No questions?
No questions.
And Sue, I know you're new. Is there any questions or anything that you are having issues with, or? No, okay.
Okay.
Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you everyone for joining us. Again, 10:30 supply chain attacks. SolarWinds was just the beginning. And we will see you all at 10:30. Thanks everyone.
Thanks.